Night of the Blood Beast brings you the first creature on Earth bullets cannot kill.
This is fantastic. It's unbelievable. Things like this just don't happen.
A blood beast that makes a dead man live.
Dr. Wyman. Half his head's gone.
A blood beast that feasts on Earth scientists. The first satellite creature to impregnate man with its chromosomes.
It's true. I can feel it inside.
The exploration into living space, exposing secrets too horrifying to reveal. You'll know days of nerve-training suspense. It's first-degree terror when you see Night of the Blood Beast.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna catch me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that works!
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
Welcome to the American International Podcast. I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And I'm Jeff Markin.
And on this episode, we attempt to survive the Night of the Blood Beast from 1958.
Night of the Blood Beast was directed by Bernard L. Kowalski from a screenplay by Martin Varno, which itself is from a story by Martin Varno and Gene Corman. And it was produced by Gene Corman for Balboa Productions, Incorporated, distributed by American International Pictures.
Night of the Blood Beast stars John Baer as Steve Dunlap, Angela Greene as Dr. Julie Benson, Ed Nelson as Dave Randall, Georgianna Carter as Donna Bixby, Michael Emmet as Major John Corcoran, Tyler McVey as Dr. Alex Wyman, and Ross Sturlin as the creature.
Night of the Blood Beast opens with a rocket launch. They're not trying to fool us into thinking this is a real rocket. It looks pretty animated.
What I thought was funny is there's a rocket launch pad, and there are 3 rockets on the launch pad, but only one takes off that we see.
And we watch this rocket voyage through space. Even through space, it's using thrusters. As the title comes up, followed by the opening credits. And the rocket flies amongst the words.
It's like a cutout, like a low-budget animated effect.
And before the film starts, we do see that Gene Corman, as the producer, signed off on it himself.
With his own signature, that's right. Inside the cockpit, Major John Corcoran is not having a good day. He's on his way back to Earth when something fails.
He's alone on the ship, and it's going down. He's recording his report on a reel-to-reel for posterity.
Yeah, a reel-to-reel that probably wouldn't survive a crash any more than he would.
So the ship has gone down and crashed on Earth, and Dave Randall and Donna Bixby exit their Jeep and run to the crash site.
It's still on fire, so Dave grabs a fire extinguisher and puts it out. He even blows some foam inside the fuselage all over the occupant.
Donna's following with her camera in hand. Dave reaches into the rocket and takes the pulse of the occupant and declares that John is dead.
Well, he looks up at Donna and shakes his head, so it's all unspoken.
He tells Donna he's going to call it in, and Donna takes a photo.
Apparently this mission is called Goldenrod because that's what every transmission begins with. He's going to radio the rest of the cast, who are driving a flatbed truck down on a twisty-turny road leading up to the mountain. I think it's not really explained very well where they are and where they're going.
It's kind of funny because this road goes back and forth. We watch the truck go down one road and up the other, and then down the other, and then it finally stops to take the call. Inside the truck are Dr. Alex Wyman, along with Dr. Julie Benson, and Steve Dunlap, who's driving. So even though Dr. Wyman is taking the call, apparently he can't answer while Steve is driving, so they have to actually stop to take the call.
Well, this is serious news. Dave blurts out that John bought it, which is especially insensitive when you consider that Dr. Julie Benson and John were engaged.
Dr. Wyman tells Dave to just sit tight until they get there. But in the meantime, have Donna take some pictures of the area because Canaveral will want full visual coverage of the crash site.
So Donna does just that, and she notices some strange mud on top of the fuselage. As she's taking pictures, Dave Randall expresses regret that his first project with Dr. Wyman was a failure. He designed the jettison unit, and it failed.
So Dave feels at least partially responsible for John's demise.
Dave says that John Corcoran was the first man set up in a satellite and ejected back to Earth, just unfortunately not alive this time.
Donna tells him not to blame himself. John knew that there would be risks involved. then they decide they'd better start looking busy when the higher-ups get there, so Dave suggests they recheck the crash pattern. As organ music plays, something unseen seems to have left the rocket and goes into the woods.
That was a weird scene because all we see is something writhing under a dust-covered tarp on the exterior of the rocket. There's no reason for a tarp to be there. So what's happening? Are we supposed to think that's something peeling away from the exterior of the rocket? I'm not sure what they're going for here.
I thought it looked even more abstract than that. I thought it was just weeds moving.
Well, there's definitely a blanket of some kind there, hiding whatever was underneath.
Dr. Wyman and company finally arrive, and Dave takes them to see the wreckage. "Hey, that's funny," says Dave. "The hole in the side of the ship used to be much smaller." They either don't believe him or don't think it's important because they just go on with their work.
Yeah, the hole is now wide enough for Dr. Wyman to crawl inside to look over the body. He yells for Dr. Benson to get in there with his kit. Both of them kneel next to John's body so that she can see something.
Dr. Wyman looks over the body and asks Dr. Julie Benson how long she thinks he's been dead. "Well, the crash was at least 3 hours ago," she says. And Dr. Wyman observes that there is no sign of rigor mortis, which is unusual for a patient dead this long. He wants to take the body back to the lab to study it further.
And now we're at the lab, which apparently was a TV station that was situated on Mount Lee near the Hollywood sign. And we do get the exterior of this. John's body was unceremoniously dumped in the back of the flatbed.
Interesting that they chose to take John and left the rocket there.
Maybe they couldn't pick it up themselves? They didn't seem to have any cranes or tools.
Yeah, I guess it probably would be heavy, but...
Well, as we'll see later in the movie, they're okay with leaving things behind.
I think if a rocket crashed, there would be a bigger crew in place to pick up the remains in real life.
Yeah, if this was a real mission from what is now NASA, then yeah, there'd be a lot more people involved. Not 5. Inside the lab, Dave finds that he can't radio out. He's trying to call the Air Force or Cape Canaveral. NASA had just been founded at the time this movie came out, so they're referring to base as Cape Canaveral or the Cape.
Dave's transmissions seem unable to get through. In the adjoining room, Dr. Wyman and Julie and Steve are looking over John's body. Wyman is frustrated that John is clinically dead in every sense of the word, but his tissues are failing to degenerate.
He seems really angry at John for this. Back with Dave, Donna tries to suggest that maybe his equipment is failing, so he sends her to fetch Steve. Back in the autopsy room, Julie discovers a frowny face-shaped opening in John's arm. Dr. Wyman thinks it could have been made by something forcing its way in. Ooh.
Then Donna comes in and tells Steve that Dave wants to see him.
Wyman tells Steve that they need help from the Cape because they're probably going crazy over there, having not heard from them.
And Wyman excuses Steve. Dave tells Steve that he hasn't been able to contact anyone, so we'd like for Steve to keep trying while Dave goes out to check the transmitter. Meanwhile, Julie has discovered that although John has no heartbeat, he has normal blood pressure. "That's impossible," says Dr. Wyman, but Dr. Wyman checks for himself and agrees that this does indeed seem to be the case.
Dave is outside the lab, and he finds that the ladder to the radio tower is swinging loosely from its mounts. Inside, Steve is frantically radioing for help when the power starts to go out, and then everything goes dark.
Outside, Dave is checking on that transmitter. He turns around and sees something come out of the woods. Dave pulls out his gun and fires several times. Then it appears he flings himself into the building and knocks himself out.
It's one of those transformers that are surrounded by a fence so that people don't go in there and mess around with the full current. And yet Dave throws himself into it and collapses to the ground.
Steve, Julie, Donna, and Dr. Wyman run outside at the sound of the gunshots. They hear a shriek and follow the sound, and they find Dave. He says something came at him from out of the darkness. It was big, like a bear. Dr. Wyman is concerned that a wounded animal of that size can be dangerous, so he wants to make sure they're all well armed.
Wyman asks how well armed they are. "Not especially," said Steve. And then there's a crash, and they all run to see what just broke into the lab. They think whatever it was came in through the medical room.
So now armed with lanterns, they go to the room where John's body is being kept and find the window has been broken in. But whatever it was doesn't seem to have messed with the body, but it did leave a piece of its leathery skin.
Donna and Dave go to check the wiring and the fuses. Dave posits that there was a disturbance at the dam, and that's why the power is out. She suggests they go help Steve board up the windows, and then they don't.
Yeah, the next scene we see Steve boarding up the window all by himself.
Wyman tells Steve that the building they're in used to be a radar station, and the reason it's so cold inside is because that protects the instruments. Steve wonders when the Cape is going to send help, because they've been incommunicado for so long. Wyman says that this is such a secure operation that it'll be 12 hours or more before somebody checks on them.
Julie announces that she'll have a blood sample ready for Dr. Wyman to examine in a few minutes. She looks into her microscope at the sample, then looks up in disbelief. "Doctor, doctor," she calls out. Dr. Wyman rushes over to look for himself. He sees what she saw.
Yeah, there's one cell that looks like an animated fried egg attacking the other cells. And Julie says she's never seen anything like it. And, well, neither have I.
But what really concerns Dr. Wyman is that 7 hours after John's supposed demise and his blood is still alive.
Wyman says that now someone needs to drive to the nearest phone to call the Cape. Every moment counts. Julie tries to explain the sciencey stuff to Steve. Normal blood has 2 types of cells, but John has a third, ultra-aggressive cell, larger than the ones it's attempting to dominate. She believes it's a bacteria and that they've all been exposed. But Dr. Wyman dismisses this concern.
But their seclusion will continue to be a problem, so Dr. Wyman sends Steve to Desert City to use the phone. There he is to contact Dr. Zimmerman and tell him to get down there, but don't tell him why, and to request a refrigerated truck or ambulance to transport John's body.
And clearance to whisk the body back to Walter Reed Hospital in Washington.
So Steve leaves and Dr. Wyman goes back to the microscope.
He tells Julie to keep taking the corpse's blood pressure. She says last time she checked, it was 140/80, which is better than most healthy people.
Outside, Steve finds that he can't leave. The coils in both the Jeep and the truck have been burned out. They're all stranded there in the dark with no communication.
Inside, Dave notices that his watch and all the other timepieces have stopped working. He declares they're in a magnetic force field.
Steve comes in to report that neither of the vehicles are working, and Dave accounts this to that magnetic field, saying it's the only explanation that makes sense. Dr. Wyman says that similar things have been known to have happened.
Then Donna shows the 2 pictures that she took of the rocket crash, one when they first arrived, and one a little while later. And it shows that something disturbed the mud on top of the fuselage and enlarged the opening. Wyman says there must be a good explanation for all this, but he doesn't really offer any ideas.
Steve remembers Dave mentioning the size of the opening, but says it didn't seem that important at the time.
Well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's kind of crucial, actually.
Dr. Wyman decides it'd be best if they all hunkered down together tonight.
And then in the morning they can hike down and meet the help that the Cape is undoubtedly sending. He, Steve, and Dave will take turns watching the body.
A little later, Julie finally breaks down over the loss of her fiancé. Dr. Wyman tries to be comforting. He's a good listener, he says.
Julie says it's bad enough that now she's single, but she's also trapped here with all this weird stuff going on.
Dr. Wyman tells her that it's all worth it because this is a learning experience for the advancement of science.
And then when that fails to cheer her up, he says maybe he shouldn't have said anything.
Julie wonders if John is truly dead. Only some of John's symptoms are pointing that way. Dr. Wyman says that maybe they'll know more after tomorrow, after they're able to get John to a hospital. Later, as everyone else is asleep, Dr. Wyman is reviewing his research while guarding over John's body and refuses to decompose in the other room. Outside, a shadow advances while strange organ music plays.
Steve hears a noise and wakes up. He gets Dave, and then they go into the now dark medical room. There's something going on in the room, and they shine their lantern inside. They see the body of Dr. Wyman, his head half gone, suspended above a hospital bed. Blood dripping down.
Julie and Donna come into the room as well, and everyone seems very disappointed in Dr. Wyman.
Dr. Wyman! Julie scolds him for slacking off on his watching John duties. They look in on John, and he's missing. This thing moves fast, says Steve.
They realize they have to go look for John, but first Steve and Dave are going to bring down Dr. Wyman's body, while Julie and Donna lean against the window, separating the autopsy room from the medical room.
Just then, a hand reaches up to the window. Then John lumbers to his feet, looking like he's holding his breath. Donna and Julie turn around, and seeing the walking dead, Donna shrieks.
John makes his way to the doorway, and Steve helps him in and sits him down. Julie asks if John is all right. I think so, says John. He looks around and asks where Dr. Wyman is. As if you didn't know, says Steve. But John doesn't know. He's pretty out of it. The last thing he remembers was the crash.
Although Julie is happy to see her fiancé alive again, she says that they're all confused at what's been going on here. John says that he remembers floating in a warm black mist, and now he's got a headache that won't quit. As he cradles his head in his hands, everyone can see the new smiley face wound in his back. John wants to know why he's got that one and the one on his arm. Julie explains that, well, you were dead, but this does not compute for John.
John says he must have been in a hypometabolistic state, a type of suspended animation caused by the expansion of blood vessels brought on by the stress of landing. Steve notices that John's talking a lot like Dr. Wyman now, and John believes that Dr. Wyman is somehow influencing him, and that he may be a part of him now.
Ew. Everyone is stymied by this. Then John tries to defend the creature that's been attacking them. It didn't come here to hurt us, he says, and then he collapses into Julie's bosom.
A little while later, John is now awake, and Steve walks over to take a look in the microscope. He says they're gone, and the others go over to take a look.
By they're gone, he means John's freaky blood cell. Julie takes a peek and then asks John to look at his blood.
She explains that now his blood looks normal, but before it was populated by alien amorphic cell structures. John suggests they take a look at him using the fluoroscope. It operates on a radiocathode tube, so it will work with the power out.
They light him up, and from what we see, it looks like he inhaled the entire Red Lobster Endless Shrimp Buffet. Julie thinks those amorphic cells turned crustacean inside him. And whatever creature he brought back, it's using him for a breeding ground. And then they all try to figure out how he got knocked up.
You're not going to harm them, are you? Asks John. We don't even know what they are, says Dave. Julie says that they were microscopic in size before, but now they've got to do something. If you destroy them, you destroy me, says John. You can't destroy them. Why not, asks Steve. That's why not, says John, turning his head toward the door.
Just then, his weird alien baby daddy bursts in through the door like the Kool-Aid Man. This creature looks like a big bird covered in decaying plant matter. Got a big beak and long claws.
Dave and Steve start shooting at it. John calls out, "Don't shoot, it won't hurt you." The bullets have no effect, but the creature does back into the wall. It approaches Donna, and she throws up her arm while holding a lantern in self-defense, and the creature backs away.
Steve recognizes that this thing has a weak spot, and he hurls another lantern at it. He sets some office equipment and a map on the wall on fire, and the creature scuttles away. Dave gives chase.
Steve beats out the fire with a pillow.
That's not recommended, is it? The pillow could catch fire, too.
Dave comes back to report that the creature was badly burned, and they should go after it and destroy it.
We never saw the creature catch flame, though.
John asks why did they have to destroy it? It's an alien, the first of its kind to come here. Steve says, well, it's knocked you up and it's killed Dr. Wyman. Isn't that reason enough?
John isn't swayed, though. Dave tells Steve that they can't get it if bullets don't work, but Steve says fire does work. He suggests they use their flare guns, which they call Very guns. John makes another attempt to stop them, but then collapses.
They drag John back into his bed, and Steve tells Julie to give him a sedative and watch over him. He, Dave, and Donna are going to go after the creature. Donna is coming because they're going to need photographic coverage for this.
Yeah, they want Donna to shoot pictures of their trophy once they catch him. He gives Julie her own Very gun. She tells them to hurry back. Steve promises that whatever happens, they're not going to be heroes. I think that's been pretty obvious from the start, but okay. And now pastoral orchestra music plays as Donna, Dave, and Steve patrol Bronson Canyon looking for the creature.
Steve notices that his watch is now working, and they theorize that this must mean the creature is dead. But they've got to be certain, so they continue. They go back to the crash site, figuring it's the most logical place for a creature to go. Steve and Dave cautiously head over, while Donna stays behind.
That was intentional on their part. They wanted her to be left alone.
Steve and Dave go to the ship, and Steve blasts his flare gun into it. As smoke pours from the vessel, Steve and Dave congratulate themselves. Nothing could live through that.
What are they doing? Donna calls out that she needs to come over to take a picture. Dave and Steve turn and look at her, and silently watch as she gets attacked by the beast. They chase after it.
They get close enough to fire their flare guns, but they don't want to risk hurting Donna, so Steve and Dave fire the guns over the creature's head so as not to hurt her. The creature lets her go and dives into the brush. Donna says the creature could have killed her, but it didn't. Dave thinks it probably would have if they hadn't gotten to her in time. At any rate, they better get back to the lab and check in on Julie.
Julie's alone back there, and that beast will probably fight her for her man. Back at the lab, John wakes up and disables the flare gun. Julie sees him and says the gun was for the creature, not for him.
John decides it's time to have a heart-to-heart with Julie. He tells her that if he was really dead as she says, well, he doesn't know what that means for them, but his feelings for her haven't changed.
Yeah, does that change your relationship status when one of you dies and then comes back to life?
Neither of them know exactly what's happening to him, but isn't it worth trying to find out before making rash judgments?
Maybe this happened for a reason, maybe even a good one. John wants him to let the creature explain itself. Julie can't get over the beast's violent actions thus far. She says that the others went to make sure that it's dead. John says that it isn't dead, and they won't be able to find it. He's had the most contact with the creature, and there's something foreign inside him alive. If there was any reason to fear that creature, he would know.
And that's when Steve, Dave, and Donna return. Julie asks if they found the creature. Steve tells her it got away. Then it's still alive, says Julie. John told me it would be. John comes in once again to plead for mercy when dealing with the creature.
It could have killed all of them if it wanted to, but it didn't.
When Dave went out to check the transmitter and Dave shot at it, it didn't harm him.
But the rest feel that killing even one of them is enough reason to retaliate. John says that it's really their fault for defending themselves and not giving the creature a chance to explain. He then proposes using himself as bait to lure the creature out into the open. He really bangs on about this for the rest of the entire movie.
This will give the creature the opportunity to say what it wants. Dave notices that his watch has stopped again. It was working while they were looking for the creature, but when they found it, it stopped again. So he deduces that the magnetic forces they've encountered seem to be emanating from two sources, one from the creature and one from John.
Steve thinks that this force might be the only thing keeping him alive. John wants them to trust him. What's happening is for a purpose, but Julie says they may have to kill the creature, and then if they do, what will become of John?
John is aware that there's a risk here, but he believes his plan is the best way to go forward. Dave decides they can do this John's way, but they will have to prepare themselves with a contingency plan in case they don't like what the creature has to say.
They're going to do all this tomorrow. Dave and Steve are going to stand guard tonight. When everyone's asleep, they decide to hedge their bets by making enough Molotov cocktails to fight back if necessary. About 3 each, Steve reckons.
They could fill up some jars with gasoline, throw them at the creature, fire their flare guns, and light it up.
They will inform Donna and Julie that they're doing this to keep them safe, but of course, John will be kept out of the loop. They have a long discussion about their old war exploits in Guadalcanal. For a movie this short, there is so much filler.
While Steve and Dave are finishing up those Molotov cocktails, they notice that John has come into the adjoining room and is lurking around Dr. Wyman's body. They question him, and John says he wanted to see how Dr. Wyman died. And Steve says that they can't fully trust John. They're not sure his actions are not being manipulated by the creature. Meanwhile, the creature is outside the window and listening in.
They think that maybe John is arguing this creature is benevolent because of the control factor. John says that he thought he had free will, but now he has his doubts. But he still argues that the creature should get a chance to speak its piece. He knows that no harm will come to him while it's explaining itself. Steve agrees, but they take their bag of Molotovs with them anyway. Once they're gone, John finds their bottle, which still has some gasoline left in it. I think he knows what's up.
The next day, John is leading the remaining cast through Griffith Park. He tells them there's a cave this way, and that's where they'll meet. Julie is puzzled that John would know about any cave since he's never been here before.
There's a lot of hiking here.
Eventually, they make their way to Bronson Cave. It's in there, says John. Steve tells the women to stand back while he and Dave prepare the gas bombs. What are you doing? You're not going to kill it, shouts John. He grabs a knife from Steve's sheath and runs down to the cave.
As he's rushing off to save his kid's dad, Julie shrieks at Steve and Dave for letting John run away. John finds the creature in the cave. He asks the creature to help him help them to understand.
And the creature reveals that it is now able to speak, with Dr. Wyman's voice, through a process of assimilation, a form of photosynthesis, he explains.
Well, explain it to me because that makes no sense.
Through Dr. Wyman's death, the creature has a better understanding of the human's motivations and reasoning. And it wants John to help the others understand that it is here to give them a better way of life.
John asks if it really had to kill Dr. Wyman, but the creature considers Wyman an acceptable loss since he can now communicate and understand humans. Now the creature wants to tell the others how he's not there to harm them. So they leave the cave to call out to the rest in Dr. Wyman's voice, which the gang finds very unsettling.
Do not be afraid. I'm not here to harm you, says the creature. Steve and Dave realize they're too far to throw their gas bombs, so they head down the slope for a better vantage point. Julie and Donna follow.
Badly.
Awkwardly.
They almost buy it on the slope. The creature says that though he technically killed Dr. Wyman, through him, Wyman has now become immortal, which is kind of a first, and that's really cool, right? But Steve isn't interested in that kind of immortality. And then the creature goes into some explanation about a long time ago, his people had a power that they misused and blah, blah, blah. Like I said, there's a lot of filler in this silly little movie.
The creature says it knows they want to destroy it, but first, just listen. For centuries, they've been circling the planet. When they sent that rocket up, it gave the creature a way to get through, so now he's here to help them. Together, they can join their intellects into one body. Dave thinks that idea is insane. The creature continues. Within the hour, the first of a new generation will be born. Upon hearing these words, John finally feels like he's been used.
He may be wondering how that new generation is going to exit his body.
He tells the others to kill him and the creature. If John's already dead and being kept alive by artificial means, that should be no biggie. Steve yells out for John to step away from the creature so they can use their gas bombs.
As John's begging them to stop the plan, the creature grabs him and uses him as a meat shield, while still claiming he's the only hope for mankind. John pulls that knife from his belt, and when he can't stab the creature, he stabs himself right in the shrimp basket. Julie screams as he falls to the ground.
Steve and Dave take advantage of the opening and throw their bombs at the creature and, as planned, fire their flare guns and light it up. As it burns, the creature tells them that they're not ready, but in time they will be. They will be sending up more satellites, and each will be an opportunity for another of his race to come to Earth to try to save it.
They'll be back. And then the creature burns to a crisp. The others check on John's body. Donna asks if they made the right decision. Julie says John made the decision. Steve still wonders if it's right, but says he guesses they'll never know.
And then they all walk off, leaving John's body with the smoldering remains of the blood beast behind them.
And that's the end. Welcome back to the American International Podcast, where we're talking about Night of the Blood Beast from 1958.
Night of the Blood Beast was executive produced by Roger Corman, with his brother Gene serving as producer. Martin Varno, in an interview with Tom Weaver, said the two originally approached Jerome Bixby to write the script, but he had another commit. He recommended his friend Martin Varno as a replacement. The Cormans discussed their ideas with Varno and paid him a couple $100 for a script, well below the minimum compensation rate for a script. Unfortunately for Varno, though, he was not yet a member of the Writers Guild of America and so was unaware that he was being paid below scale, or even what scale was.
Varno's script was titled Creature from Galaxy 27, which the Cormans retitled Night of the Blood Beast. Gene Corman got a story credit, though Martin Varno claimed to have written the script without any input from Corman, who only offered a few weird ideas, he said.
Varno was on set during the shoot for Night of the Blood Beast, but grew increasingly unhappy with the Cormans writing new dialogue and changing scenes without telling him. Eventually, he complained to his agent, Forrest Ackerman, about his treatment as well as actor Jay Jostin, who encouraged Varno to join the Guild. Once he had representation, the Guild opened up arbitration with Roger Corman in order to get Varno the compensation he was owed. Varno said he won his case, but Corman refused to pay. The Guild retaliated by blackballing Corman from using Guild writers for his scripts for maybe a couple of years. Eventually, Corman relented and paid Varno what he said was a fortune to him at the time.
Night of the Blood Beast had a budget of about $68,000. Interior scenes were shot at Kling Studios, and the cave sequences were shot in and around the cave in Bronson Canyon. Other exterior shots were shot, as we said, outside a television station on Mount Lee near the Hollywood sign.
To save money, the Blood Beast costume was repurposed from another Roger Corman film, Teenage Caveman, which he directed for American International. According to Varno, the nose of the creature was modified to resemble a beak, as someone on set complained that it looked too Jewish.
Ross Sturlin donned the Blood Beast costume because, in Varno's words, the costume was short and Sturlin was a little guy. Varno said Sturlin must have been dying inside that thing, running around outside in the heat. But if you look at the AIP press book, you notice that they put in a picture of Sturlin wearing a surgeon's gown instead of his costume, although there aren't any shots of him in the actual movie. Maybe that was a deleted scene.
Night of the Blood Beast was released in August of 1958 on a double bill with Roger Corman's She Gods of Shark Reef.
In the American International Press Book's Scene Selling Slants section, AIP recommended that theater owners recreate the scene where scientists pull aside a sheet to reveal the horribly mutilated body beneath, with a mannequin laid out on a table in the theater covered by a sheet stained with fake blood. They recommended this be done a week prior to Night of the Blood Beast's premiere showing. They also suggested putting a chemistry set on display, pumping red liquid, or that they attach photos from the film to a blood pressure graph, presumably to show potential audience members how their pressure would spike from the horror scene in Night of the Blood Beast.
The title, Night of the Blood Beast, was used as an example of the type of movies made for young people that would be inflicted on the movie-going public at a time when horror movies were taking over every theater, or so it seemed to the entertainment journalists commenting on the trend. AIP movie titles were very much represented. How to Make a Monster appeared in at least 3 columns published in 1958. Joe Himes, in his This Is Hollywood column, interviewed Roger Corman, who told him, "Kids today live in an atomic age where almost anything is possible. They know what they're seeing on screen is fantasy, but they partially believe in it, and they like to be scared. They also like happy endings. We give them all that."
Taglines for Night of the Blood Beast include, "No girl was safe as long as this head-hunting thing roamed the land."
From outer space came a wild and weird head-hunting monster out to destroy the world.
The tagline for the double feature was, "From towering wild adventure to the depths of hellish horror." Which one was Night of the Blood Beast again?
Perhaps the best review of Night of the Blood Beast was published by Variety. The reviewer wrote, "It's finally happened. Someone wrote a story about a pregnant man." The reviewer went on to say that the movie was a respectfully suspenseful picture that is the better half of a new American International package.
Barbara Causey in the El Paso Herald-Post wrote that the periodic appearance of a make-up man's nightmare brought shrieks and nervous laughter from the audience.
The Catholic Church's Legion of Decency gave Night of the Blood Beast the rating of Class B, objectionable, because the suicide in the plot solution is presented as an act of heroism.
Those were the only contemporary reviews I could find. Non-contemporary reviews include one from 1995 by Tom Shales of the Washington Post, who wrote, "It would be hard to find a worse movie than Night of the Blood Beast." He also wrote that the monster looks like the San Diego chicken after having been tarred and feathered.
And Towson University professor John L. Flynn, in his book War of the Worlds, From Wells to Spielberg, said of Night of the Blood Beast, "Corman made a career out of making cheap knockoffs of popular films, but he seems to be scraping the bottom of the barrel here."
Night of the Blood Beast was featured on Mystery Science Theater as their opening episode for Season 7. The MST3K Amazing Colossal Episode Guide calls the movie, quote, "a science fiction monster thriller with no thrills attached, featuring possibly the stupidest collection of scientists ever to peer into a microscope." Well, like I said, I couldn't find a lot of contemporary reviews, though the one in the Mystery Science Theater episode guide kind of came closest to how I feel. There weren't a lot of thrills in this movie. The scientists didn't seem that smart. The whole operation seemed implausible to me. What did you think?
Well, I think it seems implausible because there's just so few people involved. You would think in the first manned space mission, there'd be more than 5 people involved in the experiment.
Or the cleanup afterwards. They do allude to the Cape. They're trying to contact it. They're expecting help to be sent from the Cape. And yet at one point, Steve says that he doesn't want a lot of people up there. So it seems like they're doing something rogue here. They want the resources of the Cape, but they don't want all the personnel there. And I didn't understand that.
Well, what they tried to do with this film was basically a remake of The Thing from Another World, where there's this monster outside and we're all trapped in this one location. But the location they picked was the top of Mount Lee in Los Angeles, which isn't really all that isolated. I mean, obviously it doesn't take place on Mount Lee. That's where they shot the exterior of the lab.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to believe they're out in the desert somewhere because the nearest town is Desert City. So they want us to believe this is more remote than it actually is.
And that's allegedly 30 miles away, at least.
And there's no place closer that has a telephone. There's nowhere else to go.
It may be a bit of a stretch, but I think that Night of the Blood Beast could be considered an early example of body horror in film.
It is, like Variety said, the first example of a pregnant man in a movie, at least the first that he knew, and I can't think of any others. I thought that was a really interesting way to go because they have female scientists, they're female staffers, and yet this thing impregnates a man.
Well, that's what was available. You're not going to send a woman into space.
Well, why not? They probably didn't have a lot of female scientists at NASA at that point.
Oh, that's just one reason. Plus, it's 1958. They're not going to send a woman into space.
They could send a crew of 2, a man and a woman.
Yeah, they could do that, but they wouldn't send just a woman into space. That's ridiculous. In 1958.
Okay. But all the press material for the movie seems to indicate that this is something only women should fear. Women are going to be ravaged by the beast, but this beast actually ravaged a guy, and now he's pregnant. So that was a really weird choice.
You want to talk about the beast?
Not really. It's so dopey looking.
It is. We said that the costume was reused from Teenage Caveman, and Ross Sturlin, who played the creature here, also played the creature in Teenage Caveman. And he also played roles in Saga of the Viking Women and Their Voyage to the Waters of the Great Sea Serpent, and a giant leech in Attack of the Giant Leeches. But this costume, it looks like rotten seaweed.
On Big Bird.
With the head of Watto from the Star Wars movies.
That's right. You showed me a picture, and you're right. It does look exactly like him. But it would be the other way around. Watto looks like the blood beast.
Right.
It is really dopey looking. I don't know why it's a bird. Something amorphous, maybe looking like the blood cell. I don't know. And that whole thing wasn't explained either. Why was the big fried egg blood cell, what was that? Was that like an ovum going to impregnate its host?
We're watching this on a slide, and it looks like a 16 millimeter movie I would have watched in school back in the day, where the blood cell looks like it's smiling as it's eating up all the others. And
it is kind of goofy. And how did this bird impregnate John? It has long claws, but no other appendages.
I don't know if they kind of insinuate that that's what the wounds are from, because they don't really say. They don't come up with an explanation.
They do say that it looks like something was inserted into him. So they are alluding to that's the impregnation point.
So did he do it twice?
Maybe, just to be sure. Not sure which way is the fastest way to his belly.
It's weird that they're doing all this tests and it takes them so long to find the first one, let alone the second.
Well, he was on his back, so maybe they didn't flip him over.
He wasn't on his, well,
one was on his arm.
They had to take his clothes off and took his shirt off at least.
Yeah, he was shirtless for almost the entire movie.
So you'd think they would have noticed then, if you're taking a shirt off of lifeless body and there's a big wound in the middle of his back, that someone might have seen it.
Well, there is a time when John's missing. Maybe after killing Dr. Wyman, the beast got him again. And that's why he's on the floor, because he used his ovipositor on him.
That's why I'm asking, did he do it twice?
He must have.
Did he come back for sloppy seconds?
Oh my God. Apparently, yes. Yeah, this movie gets into a really weird area, which is probably the only thing I like about it, is the fact that they went there. But I don't think they ever considered how these baby blood beasts were going to get out of John.
John obviously didn't consider it.
No, well, he hadn't seen Alien yet, because it wouldn't be made for 20 more years. But yeah, he doesn't have a birth canal. Not yet, anyways.
Well, they appear to be in his lungs, so I don't know if that would matter.
They're all over his abdomen. That's the funniest scene in this movie, when they turn the fluoroscope on and all these pulsating shrimp are inside of him. This movie is legit funny.
Yeah, I've heard that Larry Blameyer, who made The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, is a big fan of this movie, and I think it shows if you've seen The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, because he borrows a lot from Night of the Blood Beast.
The deadly serious tone of the scientists while all this ridiculous stuff is going on.
And even the look of the mutant. The head is different, but the body is almost exactly with the rotting seaweed look and the long fingernails that it keeps on clicking together.
Yeah, this movie is rife for parody. It's awful short, and yet there is so much filler in this. John is endlessly banging on about giving this creature a chance, and it's intelligent, and maybe it's here to help us. And then that long story about Guadalcanal. And in a 62-minute movie, they could have shortened it by 5-10 minutes easily just by taking out all the repetitive stuff and irrelevant stuff.
There is a lot of good stuff in this movie, though, but it's not stuff that you would notice watching the movie. The camera work, there's some really interesting choices here.
Can you give an example?
Like whenever they're outside and running around in Griffith Park, there's always these weird angles. Like there's a shot where Steve and Dave jump over the camera as they're going to rescue Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Or just the way that things are framed. When they first find the rocket, we're like watching from behind a tree that's kind of framing the whole thing. It's just interesting, and there's a lot of setup that you wouldn't think that they would take the time to even bother with in a B movie like this.
Yeah, and the few special effects that they do use, you can kind of let them slide on that. The only thing I don't like is that weird scene where the tarp was writhing next to the spaceship. I don't know what we're supposed to believe that was. It might be the creature peeling off from the outside of the fuselage, because it wasn't coming out of it. There wasn't another hole on that side of the rocket.
Yeah, I think they just weren't ready to give away the creature just yet and weren't sure how to do it. And that's what they came up with.
It's bad. It makes no sense.
It still gives you the sense that something's happening, but you don't know what. And I guess that's enough to go on with the story. There's something weird here.
But since the opening that was already there in the fuselage gets bigger, we should have seen it come out of that side of the rocket. Even if we didn't see what it was, we could have seen a flash of something exiting, enlarging the hole after forcibly impregnating John.
Well, even with the bigger hole, I'm not sure that that head of that creature could fit through that opening, at least the one that we saw. That would have to be made even bigger. Then the rocket's not that big.
No, I'm surprised that there were 3 people in there at one point with Julie, Wyman, and John. Actually, it seemed bigger when it was in flight. And the camera was right behind John.
I thought it looked like a pretty tight fit then.
The cockpit wasn't very wide, but it seemed longer. They didn't shoot the scene in that actual rocket, so they had to build something that they could fit a camera into as well, and crew. And they never listened to that tape. Why did they listen to the tape? It must not have survived.
There was a lot of things you think they would be concerned with that they didn't bother with. This was not an effective recovery operation.
Nope, it was pretty half-assed. There weren't enough people. They didn't have the right people. Steve and Dave are basically the same guy. I don't know what they do. Dave designs rocket units. Steve, just a military guy. He's like the muscle.
I thought they were both supposed to be military. They don't have stripes or anything.
No, they don't. And they don't have defined roles here. There's 2 doctors, a photographer, and 2 Air Force guys. But that's it. There aren't really rocket scientists there. There aren't enough people. There should be more of everybody. More doctors, more Cape Canaveral personnel. Why isn't the news there? This couldn't have been completely unnoticed. The beginning where we see the 3 rockets, they're huge. This is not some tiny satellite being launched. These are full-size rockets, and there's 3 of them.
Well, they're full size when they take off. The one that crashes isn't that big.
No, it's obviously jettisoned some of its other modules, but it just doesn't make sense. Not that you should really think about that part of the movie. What they're really doing is, like a bottle episode, just a movie where everything happens in the same claustrophobic space.
Almost, but they do get outside.
That's true. To another claustrophobic space inside a cave.
I'm not sure we should get into it with a movie of this caliber, but what about the acting? We have Ed Nelson here, who we've seen before and will see several times in the future. He was Dave Randall here, and we saw him as Art LaCroix in Bucket of Blood.
Oh, yeah.
He was the cop who was relieved by Bert Convy and then led the charge against Walter Paisley at the end of the film. And he had a small part in Invasion of the Saucermen. And we've got 5 more films we'll be seeing him in the future.
He was fine. The acting's fine. Maybe Georgianna Carter as Donna. Her character was kind of superfluous, and she seemed to be there just to be the scared woman, the female victim.
And the photographer. They needed a photographer. They need photographic coverage.
But I mean, they gave her a job, but her main role was to be the damsel in distress.
She takes like 3 pictures during the whole film.
Like I said, she had a nominal job, but that wasn't her role. But then there's Angela Greene as Dr. Julie Benson, and I thought she was great.
We have seen her before. She had a small part in Future World. She was Mrs. Reed.
Yeah, she was the one on the airplane. I thought she was entirely believable as a doctor, scientist, and as a grieving fiance. And she basically had the only emotional role in the entire movie.
And we have Michael Emmet as Major John Corcoran or Corcoran, depending upon who says his name.
He was kind of obnoxious. And I think that's just the script. He had to keep defending this creature that violated him and killed his friend.
I think he did very well as the role of a dead man.
I never saw him breathing when he was allegedly dead. And
I don't think I saw him breathing when he was allegedly alive.
I saw him holding his breath. I don't know. His delivery was so monotone. And I guess he emotionally defended his baby daddy. But other than that, he didn't seem to have any sort of care for his fiancée, his friends. The guy the Blood Beast killed wasn't really concerned, except in a sort of clinical way, with Dr. Wyman.
Yeah, let's talk about Dr. Wyman. It's Tyler McVey, and we'll see him again in Attack of the Giant Leashes, which they shot concurrently to this film, I believe. When the creature starts talking with his voice, I'm glad they explained it, because I just thought he had this like Andy Griffith kind of voice, and I
was
thought it was so weird.
This hayseed voice.
Because I didn't remember what Dr. Wyman sounded like, and
I don't think it really sounded exactly like him, though, because they modulated it a little bit. But I guess the others recognized it. But yeah, hearing this weird alien talk in this folksy, homespun voice is so jarring. You want something like deep and booming, echoey. We don't get that.
And I think we need to talk about the ending. Do you think that the creature did have benevolent plans for the planet Earth, or do you think it was just there to repopulate with its own kind?
I don't think we can trust the creature when it states its own motives. Anything that does that to a human without their consent is not a good creature.
Right, and what it may see as benevolent, the people of Earth may not take in the same way, and that's what happened here.
It does explain that his people, or kind, messed up their own world, and so they're looking for a new world to bring their civilization to, for them, not for us. He's never explicit on what the benefits to mankind will be. It does basically say that we're going to be assimilated. Like, I'm sure the Borg on Star Trek thought they were doing a good thing by assimilating all these life forms into their collective.
I do too.
Well,
I'm pro-Borg.
Okay. Most people weren't. Captain Picard particularly was not. And I think that's how humans would react here. You can tell them, yes, life will be better for you once we merge bodies. But, you know, a lot of people aren't going to go for that.
Does sound a little fishy.
Do you think Dr. Wyman is happy to have been murdered and then have his essence taken from him by this beaky alien? I don't think so.
I'm not sure how that equates to immortality.
Those things are killable. We know that.
Right, he dies at the end.
Pretty easily, too. A couple of jars of gasoline, a flare gun, and he's gone. So, yeah, I don't think we can trust the creature.
I feel better about the ending then.
Oh, you want something to come down and save us all, don't you? Especially now.
I just want it to be over.
Giant Meteor 2026. I understand that. Yeah, it does seem like the better of two options at this point. But I don't think you want to get pregnant with shrimp. I don't think that's what you want. All right, let's put a letter grade on this bad boy. Jeff, is this movie A for awesome, I for intermediate, or P for pathetic?
This is a tricky one because I did enjoy the movie, but not for the reasons that I probably should have. It does drag at parts, and it does get repetitive, and you get sick of John just going on about how they can't kill the creature, don't hurt the creature. It doesn't mean to harm you. It kills some people and it impregnates some people, but it's not going to cause any harm. And it's just really hard to buy that story, which obviously the characters have the same problem. And even amongst all of its goofiness, where this is a so bad it's good movie, it's still not that good. and I'm going to have to give it an intermediate I, which kind of pains me because I'd love to give it an A, but it's just not worthy.
I thought you were vacillating between pathetic and intermediate, and I didn't even know that awesome was on the table. I definitely wouldn't consider that. So my grade would be, is it a pathetic or is it intermediate? Or is it somewhere in between? I think I'll give it intermediate too, just because, as you say, there is entertainment value in this movie. What's funny is that we did watch the Mystery Science Theater episode, and honestly, it's not one of their better ones because they didn't have a lot to work with. There are some really silly moments in this movie that are fun, but it's kind of boring for the rest of it. So that really drags it down. But I think that just the amount of fun that we were able to have with it, I think we can agree that it's intermediate.
I did watch this one 4 times in preparing for the episode. I don't usually do that many.
So is that because it was so short that it was worth your time, or is that because you just wanted to go over and over and over it?
Probably the length was a big factor in my being able to watch it 4 times.
Yeah, because it's a time commitment to watch these movies again and again. Even the 2 times that we normally spend on a movie can take quite a lot of our week.
It's 62 minutes, and I'd say it's definitely worth a watch. Just know what you're going into.
Yeah, definitely. Be warned. And then again, you could just listen to our synopsis, which is basically all you need to know, and it's shorter than the movie itself.
So to listen to that and our other synopses, you can go to our website, aippod.com. While there, you can also see lobby cards and other visual data that you wouldn't be able to find on an audio-only podcast. You can message us and let us know what movies you'd like us to review in the future. We have a Help Us page where we list films that we're looking for to cover on future episodes of the podcast. And if you have access to any of those or know where we might find them, we would appreciate you messaging us for that as well. And there's a link to our social media and to our store, where a purchase of our merch will help us bring you future episodes of the American International Podcast. And once again, that's AIPpod.com.
And now I think it's time to clean up after this intergalactic baby shower. For the American International Podcast, I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And I'm Jeff Markin.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in.
Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.